What if the reason you didn't get that promotion last month has, like, absolutely nothing to do with your resume?
Right.
And it has everything to do with, a passing, self-deprecating thought you had while brushing your teeth 4 years ago.
I mean, it sounds totally absurd on the surface. We really like to believe that our careers and our bank accounts are just the direct results of our conscious, rational choices.
Yeah, and our hard work, of course.
Exactly. But if you actually look under the hood of human behavior, the reality is that our lives are largely dictated by this invisible operating system that we rarely ever examine.
And that invisible operating system is exactly what we are unpacking in this deep dive. Today, our mission is to explore the classic and frankly mind-bending book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy.
It really is mind-bending.
It is, and if you look at the cover, it literally promises to unlock your master key to success.
Which is a massive claim.
Huge claim. But our listeners at Book Summary Podcast often ask how to break through that feeling of working insanely hard, sweating every single detail, but still hitting a wall in their careers or their finances.
Right. They want to know why the breakthrough just isn't happening despite doing, everything, quote unquote, right.
Exactly.
And, well, Murphy's work provides a deeply fascinating diagnostic tool for that exact stall. It forces you to stop looking at the applications you are trying to run.
Like your daily to-do lists.
Yeah, or your networking strategies, and start looking at the foundational code of your mind.
To set the foundation for that code, Murphy bases everything on a core premise, which is the duality of the mind.
Yeah.
You have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind.
Right.
Let's frame this with a metaphor he uses because it perfectly illustrates the power dynamic here. He says your conscious mind is the captain on the bridge of a massive ship.
Okay.
The captain looks through the binoculars, makes choices, and calls out the coordinates. Your subconscious mind, though, is the crew down in the engine room.
I love this analogy.
Yeah, because they don't see the ocean. Right. They don't know where the ship is actually going. They just blindly shovel the coal and follow the captain's orders without question.
Yes.
Okay, let's unpack this because I have to push back right out of the gate. Does this mean that every single time you casually think, oh man, I am absolutely going to fail this presentation today, you are literally handing the engine room coordinates to crash the ship?
Well, what's fascinating here is that from a psychological standpoint, yeah, you are.
Wow.
Because the subconscious mind cannot reason. It cannot argue with you, and it certainly cannot take a joke.
So it takes everything literally.
It takes you entirely at your word. Whatever the conscious mind accepts and believes to be true, the subconscious mind accepts as your assumed major premise. And it just immediately goes to work executing it.
That is terrifying.
It is. But if we connect this to modern psychology, we see this isn't just like mid-century mysticism. The subconscious is essentially a highly efficient pattern recognition software designed to minimize cognitive load.
Right.
Carl Jung famously said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate.
Oh, that's a great quote.
And Jordan Peterson discusses how deeply embedded, unexamined narratives dictate our entire trajectory. You think you are making a rational choice to procrastinate on that presentation.
But you're actually not.
Right. You are actually playing out a self-sabotage script written by your subconscious because you told it you were going to fail. It is just ensuring your reality matches your instructions.
So you are basically programming a self-fulfilling prophecy without even realizing you have your hands on the keyboard.
Exactly.
If we are the captain of this mental ship, we really need to talk about how to stop steering into icebergs and start actively navigating toward tangible success.
Definitely.
Specifically, let's look at how this translates to concrete career and financial results. Because Murphy talks extensively about wealth consciousness.
Yes, he does.
And he shatters the pervasive cultural myth that immense wealth only comes from sweat, hard labor, and grinding yourself into dust. He argues that wealth is simply a subconscious conviction.
Which is a radical shift in perspective, especially today when we champion, hustle culture.
Oh, totally. We are deeply conditioned to equate struggle with value.
Right. If it didn't hurt, it wasn't earned. But Murphy provides case study after case study of individuals who changed their internal conviction first, and then the external world organized itself to match that new conviction.
Let's look at one of the factual examples he shares, because on the surface, this can sound a bit like magic, and I really want to ground it in reality.
Sure.
He tells the story of a young pharmacist. This guy was making $40 a week plus some meager commissions.
Scraping by?
Just scraping by, thoroughly convinced his fate was to wait 25 years to get a pension and retire. But he started applying Murphy's principles. He visualized his dream pharmacy. He didn't just casually daydream. He mentally arranged the bottles on the shelves. He mentally dispensed prescriptions. He imagined clerks waiting on customers.
Wow.
Yeah, he played the role of the owner in his mind with complete conviction. And within 4 years, he didn't just own a pharmacy. He owned the exact store he had been imagining.
That's incredible.
But, I mean, I understand the power of visualization, but how does imagining medicine bottles actually buy a pharmacy? Like, did the universe just drop the deed in his lap?
No, and that is the crucial distinction to make here. It isn't magic, it is cognitive priming.
Okay.
When that pharmacist spent his time visualizing the bottles and acting as the owner, he was programming a part of his brain called the reticular activating system, or the RAS.
Oh, right, the RAS.
Yeah, the RAS is a bundle of nerves at our brainstem that filters out unnecessary information so we don't get overwhelmed.
Got it.
By feeding his subconscious the clear, sensory-rich image of owning a pharmacy, he told his RAS, this is important data.
So it changes what he actually sees in the world.
Exactly. Suddenly, he started noticing things he would have previously ignored. He spotted a vacant storefront in a great location. He noticed a passing comment from an investor.
He started acting like an owner.
Right. He carried himself with the confidence of an owner, which changed how he interacted with his network. The subconscious mind bridged the gap between his current reality and his goal by hypersensitizing him to the opportunities required to get there.
It essentially turns your brain into a radar dish tuned strictly to the frequency of your goal.
Precisely.
That makes the next story Murphy shares even more interesting. He talks about a young stockbroker who adopted a technique used by the famous German writer Goethe.
Oh.
When Goethe faced a complex problem, he would imagine a friend sitting across from him, giving him the perfect advice. So this stockbroker started having imaginary conversations with a multimillionaire banker friend.
Interesting strategy.
Yeah, he would clearly imagine this banker congratulating him on his wise judgment, complimenting him on buying the right stocks. He dramatized this until it became a psychological reality, and he actually started making incredibly successful financial moves for his clients.
Right.
But again, I have to play devil's advocate here. I get the theory, but realistically, talking to an imaginary friend, doesn't that sort of cross the line into delusion? How does hallucinating a mentor make you better at reading the stock market?
Well, it goes back to bypassing our own limiting beliefs. When you are stressed about a financial decision, your amygdala,
The fear center.
right, the brain's fear center is highly active. This narrows your focus and makes you risk-averse or panicked. By engaging in this imaginary conversation with a trusted, successful mentor, the stockbroker was essentially tricking his nervous system into feeling safe and guided.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this lowers the cortisol levels and engages the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for complex problem-solving and rational analysis.
So he wasn't really hallucinating at all.
Not at all. He was using a psychological avatar to access his own latent intuition and knowledge without his ego and fear getting in the way. He aligned his subconscious engine room with the coordinates of brilliant financial intuition rather than panic.
He just outsourced his confidence to an imaginary figure until he internalized it himself. That is brilliant.
It really is.
And this concept of a baseline expectation of worth applies to more than just making the right trades. Murphy mentions an executive making $75,000 a year, which, was a massive salary when the book was written.
Oh, definitely.
And this guy takes 9-month cruises to see the beauty spots of the world. Why does he get to do that? Because he convinced his subconscious that he is intrinsically worth that lifestyle.
Right.
Meanwhile, Murphy notes this executive has employees who work much harder, who actually know the day-to-day business better than he does, but they stay stuck at $100 a week.
Yep.
They have no creative ideas and, crucially, no subconscious conviction of their own higher worth.
Because they are entirely trapped by their assumed major premise. Their conscious captain is constantly shouting orders of limitation, scarcity, and unworthiness to the engine room.
And the engine room obliges.
Exactly. They believe they're only worth $100 a week, so their brain literally filters out any opportunity, idea, or bold action that would elevate them above that station.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because I think a lot of people stumble with this material right here.
Oh, for sure.
Let's say I realize my baseline is too low. I am broke. If I just stand in front of my bathroom mirror and shout, I am a millionaire, I am a millionaire, 100 times, my brain immediately knows I'm lying.
Right. You feel like an imposter.
Exactly. My bank account is overdrawn. Doesn't trying to force a belief like that cause massive mental conflict? It feels almost like toxic positivity.
It absolutely causes conflict, and this is where most people fail when they try to apply this material. If your affirmation produces a mental argument, it will fail. This brings us to a foundational psychological principle called the law of reversed effort, defined by the French psychologist Émile Coué. He stated that when your desires and your imagination are in conflict, your imagination invariably wins.
Give me a tangible sense of how that plays out. Because imagination sounds so, I don't know, fleeting compared to a strong desire.
Think of it this way. Imagine I place a sturdy wooden plank flat on the floor of a room and ask you to walk across it.
Okay, easy enough.
You would do it easily, without a second thought. Your desire to walk the plank and your imagination of walking the plank are perfectly aligned. But if I take that exact same plank and suspend it 20 feet in the air between two buildings, what happens?
I am absolutely terrified.
Right. Your desire is still to walk the plank, but your imagination is immediately flooded with a vivid, terrifying picture of falling.
Oh, I see.
Because the image of falling carries so much more emotional weight than the desire to walk, your imagination wins. Your knees shake, you freeze up. The effort you make to walk is reversed by the dominant image of the fall. So, if you stand in the mirror and say, I am prosperous, but your dominant internal feeling, your imagination, is a deep sinking panic about your credit card bill.
My subconscious accepts the panic.
Exactly. You are actually reinforcing the lack.
That is a staggering realization. You are essentially highlighting your own lie and telling the engine room to steer further into the poverty. So how do we get around the law of reversed effort? How did Murphy suggest bypassing that internal lie detector?
Murphy offered a very specific practical workaround. Instead of making a definitive statement that triggers your conscious mind to argue, you use a phrase that implies a process.
A process.
Yeah, a phrase that creates no mental argument. For example, he suggests saying, by day and by night, I am being prospered in all of my interests.
Ah, I see the nuance there. Because it implies a gradual progression. It doesn't say I have $1 million right this second. It says I'm being prospered.
Exactly.
Your conscious brain can accept that because it leaves room for the process to unfold. It sneaks right past the watchman at the gate.
Exactly the point. It bypasses conscious resistance. And, while we are discussing the mechanics of wealth consciousness, it is absolutely vital to highlight the fastest, most effective way to repel wealth, according to Murphy.
Oh, what is it?
It's envy. He is emphatic about this. If you criticize others for their money, if you call it filthy lucre, or if you secretly resent a competitor's success, you are literally condemning the very thing you are praying for.
Envy is an instruction to repel. That is a gut punch.
It is.
So let's unpack the psychology of that.
Yeah.
If I look at a wealthy person and feel resentment, my subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between their wealth and my wealth. It just registers my negative emotional reaction to the concept of wealth itself.
Exactly right.
So if I associate wealth with greedy, bad people, my subconscious, which wants to protect my self-concept as a good person, will actively sabotage any opportunity for me to become wealthy. To my subconscious, envy is an instruction that says, wealth makes people bad. Keep it away from me.
That is a perfect articulation of the mechanism. You cannot attract what you simultaneously resent. So we've established the mindset, the psychological traps, and the wealth consciousness. But practically speaking, how do you actually install these new programs into your brain?
Yeah.
Because if you are having a chaotic, stressful workday, your conscious mind is on high alert. It is fighting fires. You aren't exactly in a prime state to reprogram your deep beliefs while answering angry emails.
This moves us from the theory right into the daily application. We need to know when and how to access the engine room.
What's fascinating here is that the optimal time for programming is actually when you are doing the least amount of conscious work.
Really?
Yeah, it is the sleepy state. Murphy explains that your conscious mind is the watchman at the gate. During your busy day, your brain is operating in beta waves, so highly alert, analytical, and critical.
Okay.
The watchman is wide awake, filtering, and often rejecting new ideas based on your past conditioning. But when you're drowsy, right before you fall asleep, or just as you are waking up, your brain waves slow down into alpha and theta states.
The watchman steps down.
The watchman steps down. The critical conscious mind is submerged, and the subconscious mind becomes highly receptive. This is the absolute best time to bypass the logic circuits and impress new coordinates directly upon the engine room.
Let's break down some of the specific techniques Murphy outlines for taking advantage of this sleepy state, because they are incredibly practical for anyone listening right now.
Definitely.
First is the Baudouin technique. named after Charles Baudouin, a professor and psychotherapist in France. The core idea is to condense your goal into a very short, easily memorized phrase and repeat it like a lullaby as you drift off.
Right.
Murphy shares this wild story of a woman in Los Angeles who was embroiled in a bitter, prolonged family lawsuit over a will. Her husband had left her the estate, but his children from a previous marriage were fighting her tooth and nail. She was stressed, anxious, just totally drained.
Which is, of course, the perfect recipe for sending panicked coordinates to the subconscious, compounding her own misery.
Precisely. So she used the Baudouin technique. She condensed her desire for resolution into 6 words. It is finished in divine order.
Just those 6 words.
Just those 6. Every night, as she reached that heavy, drowsy state, she repeated, "It is finished in divine order," over and over, feeling a sense of peace, lulling herself to sleep. She did this for 10 nights.
Okay.
On the 11th morning, she woke up with a profound sense of well-being. That very day, her attorney called. The opposing side wanted to settle out of court. The bitter litigation was over.
Wow.
But here's my question for you. How does her repeating a phrase in her bedroom make the opposing attorneys across town decide to settle? Like she isn't performing mind control.
It's an excellent question. While Murphy leans into the spiritual interconnectedness of minds, modern psychology offers a very grounded explanation.
Okay, let's hear it.
Think about how she was likely acting before she started this practice. She was operating from fear and anger. Every interaction with her lawyer is probably frantic, defensive, and escalatory.
Yeah, totally.
That energy is contagious. It prolongs conflict. By shifting her internal state to peace and resolution through that nightly phrase, she changed her micro-behaviors. She stopped sending aggressive signals.
Oh, that makes sense.
Her lawyer, sensing her calm, may have changed his negotiation tactics. Furthermore, her relaxed subconscious mind might have suddenly accepted a compromise or a perspective on the settlement that her previously rigid, proud, conscious mind had been rejecting.
She stopped fighting the problem with willpower and allowed a smoother path to emerge.
Exactly.
It's like the subconscious mind is a heat-seeking missile. You just have to give it the right thermal signature, and it will find the target through whatever path is most efficient.
That's a great way to put it.
And we see this visual equivalent in another technique, the mental movie method.
Yes. Murphy details the story of a man who desperately wanted to sell his house. He didn't just hope it would sell, and he didn't stress over the lack of buyers. He got into that relaxed, sleepy state and mentally visualized a very specific movie. He imagined walking out to his yard, grabbing the wooden for sale sign, pulling it out of the ground, putting it on his shoulder, walking into the garage, throwing it on the floor, and saying out loud, "I don't need you anymore."
He didn't just visualize a check. He visualized the physical action. He felt the weight of the wooden sign on his shoulder. He felt the relief of throwing it down. He gave the heat-seeking missile a complete sensory package.
Yes.
And the very next day, a buyer gave him a $1,000 deposit and said, "Take your sign down."
The sensory detail is what makes the mental movie believable to the subconscious. And this mechanism doesn't just apply to sleep at night. It can happen during the day if you know how to tap into that state.
Really? Like a nap?
Yes, consider the story Murphy shares about the $15,000 Catnap. There was a steelworker named Ray Hammerstrom in Pittsburgh. He was trying to figure out a new engineering idea for the plant. He had been grinding on it consciously, staring at the problem, and he was completely stuck. So he stopped forcing it. He took a quick cat nap. And entirely during that nap, when his conscious mind was out of the way, the perfect design crystallized in his mind.
During the nap?
During the nap. He woke up, sketched it out, presented it, and the corporation gave him a $15,000 bonus, which was massive at the time.
We see this historically all the time. Thomas Edison and Salvador Dali famously used cat naps to access this exact creative state.
Exactly.
When you release conscious strain, your brain enters diffuse mode thinking. The subconscious supercomputer, which can process vastly more information than the conscious mind, finally has the quiet space to connect disparate nodes of information. The engine room doesn't clock out just because the captain takes a break. In fact, it works better when the captain stops micromanaging.
Exactly. And it applies to every form of cognitive performance. Murphy shares the story of a 16-year-old boy who was failing his high school classes. He was resentful, and his memory was terrible. The harder he tried to study, the worse he did.
So the law of reversed effort again.
Yes. But he started affirming in that sleepy state before bed, "My subconscious mind is a perfect storehouse of memory. It retains everything I read and hear."
Wow.
He visualized his teachers and his mother congratulating him. He completely turned his grades around to straight A's. The mechanism here is neuroplasticity. Stress and cortisol literally block memory retrieval.
So by relaxing.
By relaxing into the assumption that his memory was perfect, he lowered his stress response and allowed his brain's natural recall functions to work unhindered.
So what does this all mean? Synthesizing all of this for you listening, it sounds to me like the ultimate lesson here is that we need to stop forcing productivity.
Yes, absolutely.
We rely so heavily on willpower and brute force in our modern work culture. We white-knuckle our way through problems, which just creates tension and stress. And according to the law of reversed effort, that stress actually pushes our goals further away because our dominant feeling is panic.
Right.
We need to lean much more heavily on relaxed imagination.
This raises a fundamental question about how we operate daily. We champion the grind. Murphy is advocating for the exact opposite approach to problem solving.
Which is so refreshing.
It is. He is saying, do the practical work, yes, but let the heavy lifting of connecting the dots, attracting the opportunities, and finding the creative leaps be done by the subconscious.
Right.
Think of it like a farmer planting a crop. You prepare the soil, you plant the seed of the idea with feeling, and then you step back and let the laws of growth take over. You don't dig up the seed every 10 minutes to see if it's growing yet.
Oh, that's a great point.
That is what worry is. Worry is constantly digging up the seed.
Worry is digging up the seed. That is a phenomenal analogy that perfectly encapsulates the friction we create for ourselves.
Yeah.
So here on the deep dive, we never want to just leave you with abstract theory. We want to give you concrete homework so you can test this out in your own life immediately.
Yes, practical application is key.
Tonight, as you're getting into bed, right as you reach that drowsy, heavy state where the watchman at the gate is stepping down, I want you to take your biggest current work hurdle, whatever's stressing you out the most.
Okay.
Condense the solution to that problem into a short 3-word phrase of gratitude. Something like, thank you for the breakthrough, or success is mine, or divine order prevails.
And repeat it gently, like a lullaby. Do not allow your conscious mind to start plotting the 20 steps required to solve the problem.
Right, no analyzing.
Only focus on the feeling of relief and gratitude that is already solved. Let the watchman go to sleep, and let the engine room do the heavy lifting overnight.
You don't have to white-knuckle your way to every victory. This is a key takeaway for the Book Summary podcast community. If you enjoyed unpacking the hidden mechanics of your own mind today, we would love to give you a warm invitation to continue this journey with us by subscribing to The Deep Dive. There are always more layers to uncover.
The machinery of human behavior is endlessly fascinating when you know where to look.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up this deep dive into Joseph Murphy's work, I wanted to leave you with a lingering question to ponder on your own today. Think back to the captain and the crew. If your subconscious mind is truly a literal, unblinking recording device, and it has been faithfully absorbing every passing thought, every deep-seated fear, and every casual, self-deprecating joke since you were a child, what kind of movie has it been directing for you without you even knowing it? And more importantly, what new script are you going to hand the director tonight?